All right, so this is going to be a packed interactive talk. So get ready to embrace the chat function. I do want you engaged and learning. And like Rebecca said, we'll be talking about how we can better prepare for ongoing challenges we're likely to face in 2021, but really this is a long-term kind of mindset. So starting with this idea, there is a lot that's out of our control right now. And in our effort to prepare ourselves for managing all of it, sometimes we do things that might actually make things worse, as Rebecca said. So I'm going to review some of the mindsets that contribute to making things worse and offer some alternatives to practice, and end with a framework that will start the year off well for you. Okay. All right. So this is me. I specialize, I'm a clinical psychologist by training and also a counselor. You heard that. I'm a consulting psychologist now who specializes in women's leadership development, career strategy, and workplace politics. I do that through my boutique leadership development company and also blogging on Psychology Today. I also specialize in healthcare, academic, and federal government and nonprofit industries. In addition to that, I am a senior organizational development psychologist with the Department of Veterans Affairs, where I work with executive teams and associate professor at Duke. And a little about my early upbringing. I swear it is related. So there I am, this cute little girl. My early years, I am not unfamiliar with facing the unknown. In fact, I have come to embrace it as the best path to success. So some of you who know me may not know that I was born in a communist country where there was little left to the imagination. You're told exactly how to think, what to believe, and even, of course, here how to dress. Although there's a little girl in a blue dress that won't conform back there. Anyway, my parents emigrated to America because, they realized that that kind of stability was kind of not ideal in all the wrong ways, right? So they left with their 2 young children. I was 6 years old and my brother was 3, to a land and life completely unknown to us all. And through this journey, they had instilled in me a mindset ready for change and able to manage turbulence. But of course, when we first arrived to this new country, we first had to seek stability, right? When you're in that situation where very little is in your control, you don't speak the language, you don't understand the culture, you really have to adjust how you think about it, how you approach things. So the work that I do now spans from surviving through thriving, but we're going to focus today's talk very heavily on the surviving and stabilizing end, with just a small sneak peek at what the thriving end looks like. And wherever you are in your journey, I do think that you'll get something out of this. Okay, so we know change is the only constant. We live in a VUCA world. VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I believe the military coined this term first to describe the world that we live in now. So we need new tools to navigate this complex world. It requires a lot more flexibility and adaptation. This is not the first time, and it won't be the last time we're going to face a crisis, right? We are constantly learning to adapt, whether that is new crazy kinds of hurricanes and tornadoes that threaten the stability and infrastructure of our homes, stock markets that sometimes threaten our financial stability, our current health, economic, and civil unrest crises in the last year. But there is, in fact, a lot that we can do, that we can control about how we think and approach things. And this is one of my favorite quotes. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. So this quote was written by Viktor Frankl, who before becoming a psychiatrist learned to survive being a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp for 4 years. There's nothing he could do to change his environment or situation. So he learned to change the way he approached it and how he thought about it, and actually wrote Man's Search for Meaning for those who are familiar with it. So let's think about that. How can we, quote unquote, change ourselves? We're not really changing ourselves, but really the mindset, how we approach things. And so I want to build your resiliency infrastructure with this premise in mind. There are thoughts and beliefs that we have that are so automatic, that we tell ourselves so often, that we've come to believe them as true. And we believe these automatic thoughts help us gain control or make us feel better. But in fact, they keep us stuck doing the same unhelpful thing. They probably served a purpose at some point in our lives when we started using them or applying them to certain situations, but rarely do they continue to help. It's like a bad habit, except you don't know that it happens because it happens so often and so automatically for us. The problem is that our thoughts affect our feelings, and our feelings affect our actions. So to create change, we start with identifying which thoughts are not serving us well anymore. Okay, so I'm going to share with you 5 survival mindsets that keep us stuck and what to do about them, some alternatives. This is about getting to the point where you can persist through difficult times, because you can't get to the business of thriving and excelling until you can master these mindsets. Okay, so stuck mindset number 1, a perceived lack of choice. So this is having the belief that success is defined by saying yes to everything and everyone. So this is what it sounds like when you say to yourself something like, this might be my only opportunity for this, I can't turn it down. Or when you say something like, I have too much to do and there's nothing I can do to let go of it. Okay. A flexible mindset for this instead is setting boundaries around it. And the goal is to identify your priorities and values first, and then place boundaries for those that don't meet that criteria. So saying something like, it's okay for me to decline or reschedule. It's okay to slow down and reflect. It might actually help me to reevaluate the needs, what needs to change or what I need. There will be other opportunities, and right now, this feels like bad timing for me to add anything else. So let me ask you, what would you add to this list? What are some ways that you set boundaries for yourself that sometimes help? Or you can add some ways where you almost trap yourself in that need to say yes, yes, yes to everything. Or what would you add to this list? Go ahead, use the chat function here. Melissa says, I protect my personal time during certain hours. That's great. And open up my schedule when I can. That's a great way to put a boundary up. Yep. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. And Allison said, so true. Setting boundaries is hard but important, very difficult. I agree. And Joan says, I would say, can you afford not to? That's a great one. Thank you, Joan. Okay. So, unrealistic expectations is the stuck mindset number 2. This is the belief that success means no flexibility or wiggle room in the amount of effort, persistence, focus, or outcome. Right? So saying to yourself something like, I should be able to achieve this in 4 weeks, regardless of the circumstances, right? Or it has to be perfect. Okay. So we have all kinds of unrealistic expectations that we tell ourselves. The flexible mindset, the alternative, is to adjust our expectations to fit the current situation or context, right? So saying to yourself, I don't have to do it all right now. Or my plan for the week is a rough guideline that I will continue to adjust. Or what I'm going through could take a year and I need to think longer term. Okay. Or this is my favorite. Good enough is good enough. I used to be a perfectionist and it got in my way because I was so concerned with other people's negative judgments about how I did things or what I did that it got me stuck. And so I just, for 10 years, this was my mantra. Good enough is good enough. And I would tell myself over and over, whenever I got stuck, good enough is good enough. Because people who are high achievers, like most of you, all of you, I would bet, you're already going for the A++, right? So good enough is good enough for someone like us means going for an A- instead of an A++, which is still better than everybody else anyway, right? So that's what I would tell myself. Is there anything else you tell yourself that helps you with managing and balancing your expectations, or allowing you some wiggle room, some breathing room, so that you're not trapping yourself into these unrealistic expectations? I put it in the chat box. I focus on what I've accomplished and celebrate that. That's great, Karen. Yep, thanks. And don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay. Okay, stuck mindset number 3, the need for control. Okay. The belief here is I must have control of every aspect of the process to be successful, even when it's uncontrollable. Otherwise, it's not worth starting or trying. So this could look like, why can't everything just stop happening all at once so I can finally do my work, right? Or I can't succeed until I feel better about what's happening in the world. Or I can't get started or back on track until we get back to normal. Do these look familiar? So now this is what it looks like at the surviving and stabilizing end of things, but this is also a common difficulty that keeps leaders from thriving as well. So on that end, they get stuck. Leaders get stuck too. As their scope and responsibility grows, they sometimes can't let go of the previous things they were doing. And sometimes they end up micromanaging instead of delegating. So they get stuck not being able to move on and grow their leadership opportunities past that point. So this is a stuck mindset that shows up across the spectrum from surviving and stabilizing through thriving. Right? Okay, so the flexible mindset to this is acceptance. And there's 2 goals here we want to meet with acceptance. One is recognizing and accepting you can't control a situation or person. You can only control how you respond. And 2, accept that sometimes starting and trying is better than waiting for something that will never be. So here are some examples. It is what it is. I can accept this. Some of the best successes come from perceived failures. I can fight or avoid this, or I can choose to face it and learn how to deal with it. I'm not going to let this get me down. It's okay for me to let this go today so I can focus on more important things. Do you have more that you guys use? What else do you use? What other, what would you add to this list? How do you sort of take something that you're trying to control and work with it? Let it go, get some wiggle room. Allison says, it's okay to take one step at a time. That's a great one. Shannon says, I can't go over it. I can't get around it. I have to go through it. I love that book. I used to read that to my kids. And Joan says, Sarah, Doris Day. Yes, yes. Eileen said, I accept that I don't have control, and in releasing that, I find empowerment. Oh, I love that. Love that. And Liz says it's okay to stop, breathe, and do some self-care. Yeah. The serenity prayer is exactly this for those of you who use that. It's exactly this, right? Feel my feelings, let it go. Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Okay. Stuck mindset number 4. These are really, really common. Self-defeating thoughts. The belief behind this one is, if I evaluate myself or the situation in an overly restrictive way, by oversimplifying it, talking in extremes, or making assumptions, it will simplify a complex situation. So saying, I can't do this. I will never get out of this. I should be able to figure this out easily. Why is this so much easier for everyone else? If I take any time to slow down, I will fall behind on work and will have a terrible long-term impact. I want you to look at these. Okay, what do you notice about these? Any pattern that you see? How can you tell there's oversimplifying, restrictive, or extreme thinking here? Ranga Devi says, I accept the stuck thoughts sound more familiar to me right now than the flexible. Yes, because they're so automatic, right? Yes. Joan said, these are permanent negative thoughts instead of temporary. Good catch, Joan. And Janine says, it's very negative. Mm-hmm. Any other things that tell you, that give you an inkling that there's something happening here that is too extreme, too in one direction or another, too oversimplifying, making assumptions? How about if I highlight them here? Okay, I can't do this. We'll never get out of this. I should be able to, right? If you hear yourself using words like that, or other people, can't, never, should, have to, must, it's putting yourself into a very restrictive range of behaviors and trapping you in those, right? Don't shit on yourself, Shannon. Yeah, that's right. Now, if someone told you these messages, how would you feel? If somebody said, you can't do this, you'll never get out of this, you should be able to do this, right? You have to do this. What are the emotions or reactions that would come up for you if somebody told that to you? I would feel defeated. Great word, Janine. Yes, I would too. Defeated. Any other emotions would come up? Your self-talk should be as kind as you would speak to others, Shannon. Shannon, you are foreseeing the next couple of things here. I would do the opposite. Don't tell me I can't. Joan, I'm exactly the same way. If somebody tells me I can't, it makes me want to do it more, right? Okay, yeah. The thoughts affect the feelings that you have. And if you have these thoughts happening in your head, of course you're going to feel defeated, right? You're going to feel down. It's going to suck some energy out of what you're doing. So instead, the flexible mindset is reframing. Okay. The goal is to catch extreme or oversimplified thoughts and assumptions and challenge them. So challenge the statements, the assumptions made by saying things like this. It could happen, just more slowly and with a little more effort, perhaps. Or it's not forever, just for now. Or I can do this, it might just take a little more time and creativity than I realized. Or I have the capacity to figure out a different way to make some of this work. Yeah. Okay. So seeing these alternative ways of thinking, if someone were to say it to you like this, or you reframed it in this way for yourself, how would you feel? What emotions or reactions would you have here compared to the other ones? If somebody told you it could happen, just you're going to need a little bit more time. You're going to need to wait, or perhaps a little more effort. Relieved, encouraged, says Indira. Yes. Yes. You feel relieved and encouraged. You would take a different action in response, right? Because you would feel empowered and cared for, Liz. Yes. A little more grace is in the picture, Melissa. Yeah. And Janine, more motivated. Yep. So you can see that reframing how we talk to ourselves changes the actions and the approach we take as the next step. Okay, here's the last stuck mindset: negative self-judgments. Okay. The belief here is I can only succeed if I'm exceptionally hard on myself and hold myself to a much higher standard than everybody else. Right? So here's what it sounds like when you're holding yourself to much higher standards and being exceptionally hard on yourself. Why does this always happen to me? There must be something really wrong with me. I can't let up. If I do, everything will fall apart. It'll be my fault. If I can't do everything I set out to, I'm clearly no good at this and shouldn't even be trying. Okay. Jennifer says, this also makes me think about those on our teams as well as how we can help them reframe. Absolutely, Jennifer, absolutely. Yep. So the flexible mindset, how you can help yourself, but yes, also how you can help people on your team and people you love, you care about. So self-compassion, right? Shannon actually came up with this before. Treat yourself with the same care and understanding as you would have a loved one. So reminding yourself, I'm only human. It's normal to suffer and hurt sometimes. I deserve kindness. I'm not alone with my pain. Others are in this with me. Given the situation, if it doesn't work out the way I want, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. What else would you add to this list? Anything else? Let's see. If you're not making mistakes, you're not growing. Yep. That's right, Amy. And Amy also said it will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not over. Yes. Yep. You're creating some wiggle room in the way that you talk to yourself or with others, right? Great. Okay. Let's try these. What would you say if somebody told you this? I can't be strategic or productive with so many things interfering with my routine and taking away my structure. Okay, Shannon starts us off, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Yes, you got some great mindsets there. That's great. What else would you say to this person? Or if you said it to yourself sometime, these past few months, what would you say instead now? I can't be strategic or productive with so many things interfering with my routine and taking away my structure. One day at a time. Yes, Joan. Liz says, we have the ability to create our own structure. Yes. He says, start small, recreate structure, try to adapt with new challenges that arise. Be flexible and try new ways to be productive. Set aside time to work. Yep. Amy, I'll get back to you on that one. Are things really affecting the structure? Am I letting them? Okay, learning how to prioritize. Great. Okay, let's try this one. If I can't finish everything on my to-do list today, it will all pile up and I'll become too overwhelmed to manage it all. What would you say to sort of reframe this one, to give some wiggle room, some breathing room, some more flexibility, one bite at a time? The list never ends. Do your best. Yes. So there's acceptance right there, what Melissa said. The acceptance that the list never ends and we just do our best. Right? What are the top 3 or 2 or 1? So there's prioritizing. Right? I like to put things on my list that are already done so I can feel the joy of crossing it off. Yes, great. Okay. Now, final one, try this one. What would you say to this one? How would you reframe? I can't plan with an unknown amount of time to do everything. How would you try to address that one? I can't plan with an unknown amount of time to do everything. You can set your own deadlines. Some people, yeah, can. And some of our deadlines are arbitrary. They're not always forced onto us by others. Set expectations with others. That's a great one, Amy. Yep. So I'll start with the priority ones first and work down the list. Indira, great. Ask for clarification. Yes, these are great. Okay. So you really got a handle on this. Your mindset does matter. And we saw how, right? So we looked at 5 ways to retrain your brain. You can remember them with the acronym BEARS: Boundaries, Expectations, Acceptance, Reframing, Self-Compassion. Honestly, BEARS has nothing to do with anything, but my husband and I sat around trying to think of like a better acronym, and rabies didn't sound great and saber didn't sound great either. So if you can think of something better for me, that would be great. So one thing that's important here is that these require daily practice. Okay, especially those you had trouble with, and some of you admitted that you did have trouble with the more flexible mindsets, right? Because the stuck mindset comes so easily and so automatically. But how quickly you can catch and redirect an unhelpful thought impacts how you feel, which directly impacts your actions and your approach to life and work. Now, once you get unstuck from these mindsets, you're better equipped to get grounded and stabilized in weathering crises. Now, there's additional mindsets that are critical to thriving. I would love to talk with you more about those, but we don't have any time today to get into them, but I can give you one small taste of that, okay? Okay, so here's your bonus extra mindset. The learning orientation is one of the mindsets that leads to greatness. This is in the thriving end. Okay, so here's why. Some of us like to stick to having a lot of really specific goals because it makes us feel safe and in control. I'm going to challenge that and say that sometimes the overemphasis on a lot of really specific goals and benchmarks can keep you from seeing and achieving your next level of greatness. Now, some of these things are out of your control. If your employer has some kind of benchmark or whatever for you, a goal, you're going to have to sort of work with it. But there are other goals and benchmarks we set and impose on ourselves that are our decision. Okay. With the learning orientation mindset, your main purpose is not necessarily to reach those really specific goals or benchmarks. It's really to learn, stretch, and improve. You want to treat everything like an experiment. What can I learn? What can I try? What small changes can I make? That means no matter where you are in your life and in your career, this is the downside. This is the one that you have to sort of accept and sit with. You will never achieve a final thing, but rather you're going to keep getting better. It's a journey, not a destination, as they say. So the journey of improving will get you much farther, though, than the original destination that you set out for yourself. And it'll release you from arbitrary deadlines or restrictions that we place on ourselves. The research also shows that a learning orientation is associated with higher self-efficacy, higher persistence, higher job satisfaction, longer-term performance. So when you're thinking about your teams, this is the mindset you want them to have too, right? And it helps separate you from prestige and titles and those very like short-term goals and grounds you in something a little bit more meaningful and fulfilling. So I'm going to give you an example. Okay. This is just a small example, a small taste of it, shared by a colleague of mine, Ali, without having a specific goal of exactly how, what his timeline was going to be, how many clicks, number of likes, knowing what this could lead for him. He just pursued something that he was really interested in making videos on YouTube about mental health, and he wanted to get better at it. And here's what he achieved. He says up there, how did I achieve overnight success on YouTube? Work hard for 5 years. That's how that happens. It's a long game. It's the process of becoming. And what happened beyond this is incredible too, because he's gotten, you know, all kinds of opportunities as a result to be on TV shows, stuff like that. And he never, ever expected that. That wasn't like his plan or goal. Bodybuilders do this too, right? They don't say, I either have enormous muscles or I failed at growing any, right? They say, how much bigger can I grow my muscles? How much more stronger? How much faster can I get? How much further can I push myself? They know there's setbacks, and that's part of growing, that some days are going to be slow and not, you know, not very successful, but that's part of the growing process. Okay. I could tell you more and more stories about this, but I am coming out of time. So let's get into creating your plan. This is one of my favorite frameworks, the Ansoff matrix, for making a plan for thriving. I want you to make a 2x2, you know, 4 square for yourself, and write down what you want to achieve. I want it, I don't have it. Preserve, I have it, I don't want to lose it. Avoid, I don't have it and I don't want it. And eliminate, I have it, but I don't want it. Okay. And remember that you must master those mindsets that we talked about in order to work on the thriving. When those mindsets are in place and working, you can make this plan work optimally for you. The last thing that I'll leave you with is you can even make those mindsets a part of your plan. I want to achieve reaching some of these mindsets and practicing. So I don't want you to just fill this out. I want you to identify an accountability partner, ideally maybe even someone you met today at today's luncheon and heard this talk. Make a commitment to each other. When one of you hears the other using any of those stuck mindsets, call it out. And because it's easier for someone else to catch you when you're seeing that stuff to yourself, right? And swap your 4 square matrix with each other and check in on a routine basis for how you're doing. Hey, how are you eliminating that thing we talked about? How are you doing with that? You'll get farther with that accountability partner too. Okay. So with that, I'm going to close out. Thank you so much for having me. If you have questions, and I know there's more in the chat, I'm going to stick around to answer those and any other questions that you have for up to a half hour after this talk. Okay, so that we can connect and chat some more. I can answer any questions. If you're interested in following my work, you can connect with me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, IG, they're all at Mira Brancu. And if you need a leadership coach, you can schedule a free initial consultation with me through my website over there, brancuassociates.com. Thank you all very much.
Mira, this was so good. I love that matrix. Melissa is wondering what the name of that matrix at the end is.
Yes. Okay, so the general term is Ansoff. I'm going to type it in here. But you can literally use it for so many things.
I think this matrix is so needed for 2021. I just feel like it's perfect timing going into the end of this year and trying to figure out how to make a plan when there's so much unknown going into the new year. Thank you. This was really wonderful. Okay, yeah. So as Mira said, we're going to close out our meeting, but I want you all to know that Mira is hanging out. If you want to continue asking questions and talking with her, you can feel free to unmute yourself. I want to thank you again, our women of State Farm. Pam Herndon is here, Ola Stinnett is here, and Connolly Walker are all with us, and they have underwritten and sponsored our 4 quarterly women's meetings all year long, faithfully supporting this group. Pam, are you still with us? Do you want to share something that you remember or thought was particularly good about what Mira just shared with us?
So it's something that always resonates with me. You know, you don't fail, you just plan to fail. So, I mean, you've got to have a plan for anything in your life. You've got to have purpose and a plan. So thank you, Mira.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ola, how about you? Connolly, you'll be up next.
I always like to take a step back when asked, especially as a mother and a grandmother, when you have to do extra things, to make sure, take a step back. Don't always answer immediately, because your heart, we're women, we always want to answer and help, right? But take a step back, evaluate, can you take something on? And that's what I got from Mira too. So thank you, Mira, that's great. You don't always have to take extra on. Can you do that? It goes a long ways, especially here in 2020 and upcoming 2021. So it's okay to say no sometimes.
Yes, thank you, Ola. And it's okay to delegate. I delegate a
Yes.
lot to my kids. If they want Christmas to happen or Thanksgiving, we're all chipping in and working together. It's not me.
Exactly. How about that? How about that husband or a significant other too, right?
That's right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yes.
Mira, I need to learn from you on that. Let's talk offline. How about you, Connolly?
This was such a good time to step away and remember things that are important. I'm also a very visual person, so I made my little chart here. I love to be able to see something and plan it out so I can really visualize it and think about it. So thank you for that template. That's so helpful.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to remind you all again, the silent auction will continue to be live through 5 p.m. today. All the proceeds for that auction go to benefit the Chamber's community and economic development work, and we're grateful for your support of our small businesses during this time. So continue to buy local. As you're out and about and in the community, take photos of yourself and share them on social media. We're using hashtags #SafeCommerce, #MaskUp, and #WeBuyLocal for our chamber and our community to continue to support one another. There's such strength right now in our community, and so we'd love for you to join us in that effort. And then finally, the Carolina Inn continues to host this event for us, even though we're not there today. They have a long list of COVID-safe celebratory options for the holiday season. You can see it on their event calendar online, and we highly encourage you to engage from pick up cookie decorating, which I'm going to do with my kids. You can just do the carry out and have the cookie decorating. They're still doing their gingerbread house building. They've got COVID-safe and responsible brunches with Santa, as well as Thanksgiving and Christmas brunches available. So please enjoy our traditions there. I know most of us typically engage with the Carolina Inn this time of year. They'll still have their 12 days of Christmas going on. So please enjoy that. Okay, we'll hang back here and just continue talking, but it's the official conclusion of today's meeting right on time, which we like to do here. But please unmute and feel free to chat in the chat or with Mira now.